joined via phone by a very special lady who's walked the walk and is now talking the talk in fun and fearless ways, Marla Lukofsky. Marla has performed as a stand-up comedian in every major city in Canada, the US, and the UK. But the course of her career changed when she was suddenly diagnosed with breast cancer. She went from being a stand-up comic to an acerbic raconteur who's written a memoir and a one-person show, both of which are titled I'm Still Here and So Is My Hair, along with a collection of short stories and poems that have been published in several international medical journals. I'm sure many of you have seen her perform as a comedian. I know I have. And tonight we'd like to present her in her other role. So let's welcome her to Sex at 11 right now. Good evening, Marla. It's finally here. We were talking.
It's great to be here.
Very excited. Now, you've been a stand-up comic for more than 30 years. You must have started at a very young age.
Actually, I was a fetus when I started. Yeah, just a little embryo, and I just started to do really well right off the bat.
Right off the bat. So instead of, when people go and try to touch the mom's belly and the baby's moving, they had their ear there and they were listening to Marla and her stand-up comic show.
That's exactly what was happening.
Now, you were very successful in Canada, and then you moved to LA to continue your career. But then you were diagnosed with breast cancer, and you had to undergo 2 surgeries, chemo, radiation. How did that impact your mind, body, and sex drive?
Well, I did become bald, although I did think I was pretty cute bald. But
bald and beautiful.
Bald is beautiful. And I became bloated, even though I thought I was going to lose weight, but I was gaining weight from the steroids and the treatments. I had new scars across my chest. I was continuously nauseous. And generally, I certainly felt very unattractive. And the last thing I thought about was my sex drive.
And at one point, you mentioned that you came across some pamphlets that indicated that you most probably will experience diminished sexual desire and you won't be interested in being sexually active. And I know you said that you were feeling that, but later on, it was something that didn't resonate with you. So like that bumblebee that's not supposed to fly, you proved them wrong. Can you share how that came about?
Yeah, well, it was very interesting. It was during the first month of my treatment, so I was bald and bloated, and a former lover of mine came to visit me in Los Angeles where I was being treated, and she knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and I said, hey, I just need to tell you I'm bald. She says, I know. I opened the door wider, and to me she looked just as attractive as she was, while we were still together, and I felt the oxytocins going, and I thought, well, that's interesting. And anyways, to make a long story short, at nighttime I went to bed, and she came in and said, can I give you a massage on your shoulders? And I said, yeah, sure. And she was gently rubbing away, and I started to feel aroused, and
wonderful.
I couldn't, believe what was going around my body, my sensations, and I wasn't sure if my mind was playing tricks on me or was she trying to arouse me. And the sensation became so overwhelming because here I was reading the pamphlet saying, you won't feel this way, and yet my body was. And I just turned around and I said, God, forgive me, and I embraced her, and we made passionate love for like 3 hours. It was probably the best sex we had in our entire relationship.
Wow.
And it made my body go from a spectrum of feeling like it was dying to feeling like it was alive again.
You came alive at that moment instead of feeling like you were dying. That's such an incredibly touching story. Now, sometimes, there's 2 parts to it. Sometimes a partner may want to reach out, but they're afraid because they're thinking this person's not feeling well.
That's right.
Maybe they're not up to it. And you had said something that really sounded great. Can you tell us a little bit more about it? You said that sometimes the person who's ill has to kind of reach out to the partner. Can you tell us what tips you have for both parties to make that happen?
Absolutely. And I understand, of course, firsthand how a woman or a man can feel unattractive when they're going through harsh medical treatments or any kind of adversity. And you would think that no one would ever find, me or themselves sexually desirable. So they don't put out any signals, they don't put out any advances, and they confirm their own unattractiveness, basically. And then their partners or lovers or flings feel that they don't want to bother the cancer-laden loved one or person who's in trouble, and so they don't ask, and they don't make any advances either. So it becomes a lose-lose situation. And I'm proposing a win-win one, whereby the person who is possibly open to having sexual contact puts it out there, makes their feelings known, makes their feelings very clear with communication that they're open to intimacy on many different levels. It doesn't have to be purely sex. And once they put it out there, I can tell you that their special person in their life, they're going to be very surprised when they hear this. And that person will usually want to engage in some sexual contact as well, on whatever depth or level, as I said, that it may be. And both your bodies will probably surprise you, because I know it happened to me. And that amazing feeling where your body goes from one end of the spectrum to another, where you see the light at the end of the tunnel,
and it's sheer
amazing
magic.
because your body's senses come alive even for that brief period of time.
Now, you've grown from your experience and used your skills as a stand-up comic to become one hell of a keynote speaker, writer, and advocate for cancer patients. Can you quickly tell us about your memoir, shows, and your very special one-liner take-home message?
Right. Well, my memoir is entitled, as you had mentioned, I'm Still Here and So Is My Hair, and I'm in the process of turning it into an ebook. And my show is about 1 hour long, and I talk about my journey, but my show is not just about having cancer. It's really about facing adversity. It's about the human relationship. It's about parent-child relationships. It's about friendship relationships. It's about the human consciousness, really. And I have 2 shows currently coming up in March 7th at Wellspring at the Sunnybrook Hospital campus. That's Thursday, March 7th at 6 p.m. And another one March 30th on a Saturday at this new cabaret called the Flying Beaver Cabaret. My show's at 7 o'clock on Parliament Avenue. You can look that up. The audience can.
Is it on your website? Are those times posted on your website?
They aren't posted on the website, but if people go on my website, they can see my email address, write me, and I will give them the information personally.
And we will post it on our Facebook page as well, so it's accessible to people. Can you give us your URL before you go so people can learn about you and access your brochure and memoir?
Right, yeah. Well, they can do that with www.marlalukofsky.com. And when they do that and they write me through my email address, I'll write them back and give them a sample of my pamphlet and where they can find my memoir and my shows. And I do want to leave your audience with a message that I have in my speech that I tell anyone who's willing to listen. And the message is quite simple, but people don't think about it. And it is that each one of us is stronger than we think.
That's a really lovely take-home message. We thank you for that. I'm looking forward to catching one of your shows, and keep it sexy, Marla. Thank you so much. Wish you lots of success in taking your message to people, and it sounds like through your show there's something for everybody. Thank you so much. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Rebecca.